Hello, this is Alberto from London Contemporary School of Piano, and this is Jazz Piano Tutorial on Somewhere Over the Rainbow. What I will do is I will show you 5 steps to turn this very famous and beautiful tune from something very simple and harmonious to something harmonically more advanced and jazzy. So the first step is getting the simple things well. So let's first have a look at the melody. Let's state a few facts about this melody. It's diatonic, meaning there is no chromaticism, and also rhythmically it's pretty consistent, is spread over 8 bars, and also the phrasing is quite regular. You can highlight clearly 2 bars phrases that compound the whole 8 bars section. Now, given we have 8 bars and the harmony of this melody is quite linear, I suggest to go for the simplest, most linear harmony possible. What I will do is, for each of these bars, I would add a single triad. And I will do this right away with you. First bar is a C, second bar is an E minor, third bar is an F, fourth bar is an E minor, then a D minor, and a C, G, and a C. This is the way it sounds. As you can hear, it's very linear, almost classical. One detail: on bar 4 I added E minor, but some might prefer a C major. But for this tutorial I would stick to E minor. Okay, so you'll see how useful it is to do this level in a simple and thorough way, because on this we will be able to add more complex harmony on top. So let's go to the second step, which is crucial. We are going to look for cadences. Cadences meaning sequences of 5-1 that are present already in this tune. I find that there is only one particular, and it's the 7th bar to the 8th. Why is this important? Well, cadences, as you know, they highlight a moment of tension and a resolution, and they're pretty common in music, particularly to our ear, to our understanding of music. They are simple way to make the music moving forward. What we will do right now is to find other places in which we can add cadences of the same nature. So we will consider, for the sake of exercise, each chord as a possible 1. What do I mean by that? Let's take the second bar. The second bar is an E minor. If we think of this as a 1, what will be its 5? Well, its 5 is going to be B7. You can hear how this sounds good. All right, then can I stick a B7 right before E minor? Yes, I can. That's already rich harmony. So what I'm gonna do is write a B7 right here. Okay, the next bar is F major. If I consider that as a 1, what is its 5? Its 5 is C7. Can I stick C7 right before F? Yes, I can, although I need to pay attention with this because I can only do that on the 4th beat of the bar. Why is that? Because in the middle of bar 2 we have a B natural. If I do that, that will sound wrong. So I will just delay the C7 right to beat 4. Okay, next bar we have E minor again, and I'll do the same that I did before, which is adding a 5, adding a dominant to the previous note. Sounds good. Let's play the whole thing and see if it works. You see already how the first line has turned into much richer harmony already. Now in the next bar I have a D minor. Once again, let's consider this as a 1. What will be its 5? Its 5 will be A7. Notice how all these dominants have nothing to do with the original key of C major, but that doesn't matter to us because chords that have notes outside of the key enrich the harmony. Of course, make things slightly more complicated, but hey, that's price to pay. So from E minor to D, I will go with the A7. Okay, so let's play the whole thing. Actually, let's write this down and let's play the whole thing and see if it works. Seems to be working. Now let's go directly to bar 7 where we have our G. So if G is the dominant, can I consider that as a 1 and find its dominant? Yes, of course. How about this? You notice I just played the D. We can easily turn it into a D7. And here we have our other more interesting version. We have D7 and G7 in the last cadence. But let's look again at this D7. This D7 can also be thought of as a 1, so I can find the 5, which is A, and play it right before. How about this? Sounds right to me. So this last cadence has turned from a 5-1 into 5 of the 5 of the 5 into 1. Amazing, huh? So you see how this second point, finding cadences, is really crucial to enriching the harmony. Let's go to the next step, step 3, and let's turn, when possible, a 5-1 cadence into a more jazzy 2-5-1. I'm gonna give you an example. In bar 4, we're doing this. This is the end of the first line. Can we turn that into a 2-5-1? Let's try. Sounds good. But does it sound good in the chord sequence? Sounds good to me. So I'm gonna just write it in 2-5. Okay. Can I do the same in the very beginning? Because I'm going to a E minor. Well, of course I can. Let's do this on the second half of the bar. There we go. Maybe let's do something a little bit more daring. Instead of starting right away on C, let's start on the 2 of E minor, like this. Wow, that sounds really jazzy. I'm gonna write it up there, okay? So you see how each 5-1 cadence can become a 2-5-1, and you can really experiment on all the other cadences and make the harmony lift up to a more advanced and more rich. Now, step 4, we're gonna add a tritone substitution. So if you're not familiar with tritone substitution, here's a very quick explanation. So we have a lot of dominants, for example, like this, and in a dominant chord, dominant 7, we find these 2 notes, which are quite dissonant. The interval between them is a tritone, and that dissonance is the one that carries the tension through and make us want us a resolution. But notice that this tritone does not belong only to the dominant 7 of C. Also belongs to another dominant 7, the G flat. The G flat 7. Okay, so the tritone substitution is a way to take the chord of C and substituting it with the G flat 7. Do we have a chord of C? Yes, we do. Between bar 2 and bar 3 in this spot. Okay, let's try substituting that with the G flat 7. Wow, completely different. I play it again. You hear that? That's a serious jazz harmony. And for the final step of today, we're gonna do a little bit of adjusting things up. We're gonna start adding 7s, 9s, and maybe even other dissonances like 11s around and make our harmony lift up even more on each chord whenever possible. So 9, 7, flat 9, 7, 9. Okay, so you can hear already by just adding 7, extension 7, 9th and 11th, you can sound way more jazz. This is something I consider like the flavoring on top of more solid structural harmony. A couple of details I like in bar 5, I like to do something. There isn't much happening there. So how about a plagal cadence? Sounds good, but can sound better. How about a minor plagal? There we go. This is an F minor going to C. And the last two details are a scale linking between there and there. Listen. What is it? This is coming from a scale from C to A that touches B flat. That turns into a chord. There isn't really much of theory here. It's just a note of the scale between C and A that can turn into a full chord. And the final thing, if we add a turnaround, in the end, 2, 1. So this was the harmonization of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Well, if you like to learn more about what we do at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you can head over to our website or check our channel. There's lots of piano tutorials and interesting material for you to check out, and look forward to our next video together.